What's going on, everyone? NASCAR Joshua 5 here, and today I have a very special video for you all. The Sony PlayStation, I'm sure a lot of you have heard of that by now, is celebrating their 30th anniversary, and I cannot believe it's been that long. It's crazy. I'm recording this right now on December 3rd, which I believe is the actual anniversary, so I wanted to make sure and get this out there. This is a special video I wanted to make considering I grew up with PlayStation. I started out with PS2 and went up forward. Also in the background you'll see some of my favorite PlayStation games. They're all the clips in this video are PS2 and one at the end is PS5, I believe. So I just wanted to share my story with you all and wanted to share my experience with PlayStation over the years, growing up as a kid to how I am now. So yeah, I just figured I'd make this video in celebration of all these years for the PlayStation. It's a huge deal, so I wanted to get this out here. So let's go ahead and go through the story, and this is my story of the PlayStation. So it started out when I was about maybe 5 or 6 or so. It was Christmas, I believe 2001, I want to say. My mom, dad, myself, and my sister Marissa were opening our presents, and sure enough, my mom gives my dad a box that has a DVD player on it, which was weird because my dad's like, wait, we already have a DVD player. And he opens it, and it's the original fat PS2. My dad was somewhat of a gamer back then. He more than he is now. And he opened it and played it, and he looked over at me because I was sitting on the couch next to him. And he's like, "Hey Josh, what does this say?" And I sounded it out with him. It was PlayStation 2, and pretty much that's what kickstarted it for me. And my dad played it a lot, and then I grew up playing the game in the background right you're seeing here. We played a lot of SSX Tricky. Garibaldi was our track, and we did a lot of freestyle competitions. My dad and I usually did pretty good, and even as a kid, I would beat him, and he would get in trouble with my mom because when I beat him, he would stay up and practice, and so he could beat me again. And we got so competitive and had so much fun, and we really enjoyed it. A lot of great moments playing this game, and as you can see, we loved playing as Mac. Mac was our character. My dad and I both always played as Mac. We always built his stats up and always had a great time. And for the longest time we played as him until recently I started playing as Kaori. She might be annoying as her voice, but she is really good as well. But anyway, that's really what kickstarted it for me, and then eventually my mom got me my own PS2 that I still have to this day. As you saw at the beginning of the video, that's the same PS2 that I've had all these years. Somehow it still works, knock on wood, and I've gotten a lot of years out of it, and I love it. And I missed the rail right there for some reason. Anyway, that's really what kickstarted it for me. My first PlayStation was a PS2, and I still have it, and I've played it to this day. And I've played a lot of great games, like this game here, SSX Tricky. I played Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, a lot of the famous ones, and then racing games, Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, all that stuff. I also played DVDs, and it really helped me. I never owned a PS1, but the PS2 was backwards compatible with the PS1 games, so I got to, play those, so I didn't have to have a PS1, basically, is why I never owned one. And yeah, so I started doing that. It was fun. Eventually, the PS3 came out, and that's where we move on to next. And I got the first PS3. Funny story about that one. It was Christmas again. I think 2006 or I think it was 2007. And my sister Marissa and I, we got up super early. It was still dark outside, and we went and see all the presents underneath the tree. And we were just scooping them out and seeing what we got, or scoping them out, I think is the word. Anyway, there's a box sitting towards the left there, and it had a handle on top of it. And my sister goes, that's a PS3, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. Why would you do that, I was so stupid back then. And sure enough, I opened that box with the handle on top, and it was a PS3. And I was like, Mom, Marissa said that was a PS3. And she got in trouble, which was funny. And that was the original, the black fat one. It was I think it was the 80 gig model with internet. That's the one I got. And the PS3 for me was very rocky. I had a lot of problems with it. It was very unreliable. It worked for a little bit, but it would get so hot. Like every time I put my hand on top of it, it would like almost burn my hand. It was so hot, and because of all the heat, it eventually started having problems, and I had to get it sent in to get fixed, and a lot of problems with the PS3. And I credit my uncle for trying to fix my PS3 when it was broke, and eventually he and my mom were like, "Okay, Josh, you need to get a new PS3." So went a couple of years with that one, I think it was, and my senior year of high school started in 2013, and I started working at Dairy Queen, and I got paid every 2 weeks. And excuse me, the deal was that I would take about, I don't know, $10-20 cash out, and I would put it in a saving for my PS3. And then Christmas came around 2013. I had about, I don't know, $100 I think saved up, and as a Christmas present, my mom uh, paid for the rest of it and got me the PS3 you saw at the beginning. It's the Super Slim, and it is it's called the Azurite Blue, I think is how you say it. It was a GameStop edition, and it came with the Jack and Daxter collection on PS3, so it had all three of the Jack and Daxter games. So I was excited about that, and it was really cool. And that same PS3 I have now, it's been much more reliable. It doesn't get as hot. Knock on wood, I love it. It's amazing. And I've had a great experience with that as well. A lot of fun with it. And eventually played games like Gran Turismo 6, Gran Turismo 5. Actually, Gran Turismo 5 I got with my old PS3 and had played a lot with that game. That game was a long game with a lot of races to do, and the career was much longer. Um, Played that for a while. I got other games like Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. I also have '05 for PS2 as well. And got a lot of fun games with that. There were some games, I had a bad habit of giving my games away back then for some reason. Uh, First, I was just stupid back then and didn't realize how much games actually cost, and I had to learn that lesson the hard way. And anyway, so eventually I had a lot of great games with it. Gran Turismo 6 came out 2013. I got that with my blue PS3. Came with a cool looking blue controller. I showed my controllers at the beginning. That wasn't all my controllers, it was just some of them. But yeah, it was a great experience. And my buddy Dylan and I had a lot of fun with WWE 13. That was another game that we would stay up all night and play and have a good time, create wrestlers. I had DLC where I unlocked all the championships, so we would have all these championships all over the place, and it was so much fun. Same with PS2. I also played, I forgot to mention, GTA San Andreas. I still have. Dylan and I used to play WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. That was a game we spent a lot of time with, and we really enjoyed it. Had a lot of great matches. He actually taught me how to play wrestling games because I didn't know how to play them at the time, and we learned how to do that. And it was a lot of fun. Anyway, after that, besides wrestling, I also have Ratchet and Clank Future Tools of Destruction. It was actually, I think, my sister's game, but I pretty much kept it, and I have it to this day. That game was alright. I never completed it, but it was a fun game. Just wasn't like the PS2 versions. The PS2 games of Ratchet and Clank were just, you couldn't really top those. And always enjoyed playing those games as well. And PS3 was pretty troubled console for me, but thankfully the one I have now works much better. And the first one I had was so unreliable. It just seemed like every time I got it fixed, something else would break, or it would just stop working, and it would. I tried there was a lot of tricks you could try. I did the hair dryer in the box, I think it was, trick. There was all these weird tricks that I was desperate to try, and they never worked, and all this stuff. But kind of like the Xbox 360, I've seen that it had like the red ring of death and all that stuff, and they were just, Sony and Microsoft were trying to get their stuff figured out, and they were just trying to get all their consoles working, and they both had a troubled start at the beginning, and it ended up working out for both. And eventually that led to the PS4, and holy cow, did I want it so bad. I remember anyone who would listen to me, I told them I wanted a PS4 so bad. And then sure enough, we get to Christmas of 2016, and I have been bugging my mom and my grandma, also from Florida. She had a hand in this as well, and they both knew I wanted it. And I remember telling my mom, I'm like, I will do anything, like I want it so bad, and sure enough, My mom, last Christmas present, she brings this huge box. I'm sitting on the couch, right? Brings this huge box, and it has my baby blanket in it. I'm like, what is this? You know, and I open it, and there it is, PS4 Pro. And I'm just like, oh, yes. And that was a cool deal. And PS4 Pro, I got introduced to some new games. The Project Cars series, I got introduced to as a great games that I played. Assetto Corsa, that's where I got introduced to that game as well, which is you've seen on my channel plenty of times if you watch my YouTube. And Assetto Corsa especially was a very hard game for me to learn because I'd never played anything that realistic before, and took a long time because I'm a controller player. I'm not much of a wheel player as much. I have one, but I'm more of a controller guy myself. And I read all these reviews, and they were like, "Assetto Corsa is not for controllers. It's for steering wheels, and it's so much more realistic." And I buckled down, and on YouTube I started uploading or trying to look up. I looked up for controller settings first, and then I tried to figure out my own. And I found this one setting that worked. It was from, I think it was Carbonized Monkey is his name, and he commented, or they commented, their settings, and I started using those, and from then on it was set. That's what I started using, and it was just a huge experience for me. For Assetto Corsa, I learned how to start using manual transmission and shifting on my own. I learned a lot how to play that game. It made me a better driver because of it, so I really enjoyed that. And yeah, that game really started helping me drive better. And then if I go back a little bit, the PS3 era was when I started playing F1 games. I think my first two games for F1 2010 and 11 I got when I was working at Dairy Queen. And I started playing the F1 games quite a bit, and then I got F1 Championship Edition for PS3 as well. And I really enjoyed that game and have a lot of great memories with that. And it's still a game I play to this day. Need for Speed Carbon is also a game I've played on PS2 and 3, and it's a game I've also really enjoyed. Another game you'll see in this video, if I can backtrack a little bit, is ATV Off-Road Fury. I played that game as well. Had a lot of fun with that. My dad is a big ATV guy, so he liked that game. He got me into it. ATV Off-Road Fury 2, I played that as well. And for the PS3 era is when I got introduced to... I never really played Grand Theft Auto apart from when Dylan had San Andreas, and I got introduced to GTA 5. And I was like, wow, it's so realistic, and played through the story mode on PS3. Eventually, because, Rockstar doesn't want to make a new game, I eventually played the PS4 version, the PS5, and then PC and all that stuff. GTA 5 has just never seemed to end. But I got introduced to these games, and it's been really fun. Also for the PS4, I'm sorry. I got introduced to The Last of Us. It's a game that Dylan showed me. I could not believe it just got me in. I'm not usually a fan of those kind of games, but I was immediately drawn to the characters, Joel and Ellie and their story, trying to find a cure for the disease that caused the people to turn into zombies, or however that goes. And I played that game, and I played through the whole story, and it was really fun. It was very emotional, of course, and the ending was very emotional too, and it was a fun game. And then I also played The Last of Us Part 2. That game was just so much longer and so much more emotional. It was hard to play that game, and it was very hard to go through all the emotions of Joel dying and just, having to playing as Ellie and then getting introduced to Abby and figuring out all the stuff that happened. It was a very different experience to someone like me who was always racing games, NASCAR, all that stuff. And speaking of NASCAR, I haven't mentioned that. I grew up playing pretty much all the PS2, PS1 NASCAR games. Of course, one of the best ones being NASCAR Thunder 2004. That's easily the best console game that everyone seems to say, and I agree with that. NASCAR Heat 2002, Dirt to Daytona, all that stuff. PS3 NASCAR games were not that good, though. It seemed like they just weren't as good, and they just weren't the same. But NASCAR 15 was my favorite PS3 NASCAR game. It was the one that I played the most, and I made a lot of paint schemes. I figured out how to use the paint booth, and I made a lot of cool paint schemes and enjoyed that, and had a lot of fun. For PS4, also the NASCAR games weren't that great, but NASCAR Heat Evolution was easily the worst. game in the series, in my opinion, in the Heat series. And F1 games were getting better at that time. One of the first PS4 games I got was NASCAR Heat Evolution, like I said, and then F1 2016. And I really enjoyed that game. Both, I mean, F1 2016 was a great game because they, had the disaster of F1 2015, and then the career mode of 2016 was so much better. It was a 10-year career, I'm pretty sure, and it was just so much more in depth than the F1 2015 that basically had no career mode. It was just more of a season mode, if you will. And I really enjoyed that. I was so excited to get the PS4. I was so happy, and I was so grateful for that, and so excited. I just couldn't believe it. I didn't think I was gonna get it, and somehow I did. And I got the PS4 Pro, which is actually a more powerful version of like the PS5 Pro, which I think is a huge disappointment. And I've played on the PS4 for a while. I had a lot of great games. And eventually, 2020 comes around, and obviously 2020 was a pretty scary year for everybody. And eventually the PS5 gets announced, and I'm just like, man, I got the PS4. I'm not even going to try to ask. And my mom and sister were trying to find it. It was so hard to find at the time. Well, we all three were here, my mom, Marissa, and myself, and we had a discussion. We're like, okay, if you get a PS5, Marissa's going to pick it up. We're not going to have it delivered here because they were getting stolen like crazy. And sure enough, I was playing online with my buddy Dylan one day, and Marissa calls me, and she's like, hey, go in the living room or whatever. And I go in there, and my mom has a big, huge box wrapped up on the couch. And I'm like, what the heck? And it was a PS5, and I couldn't believe it. I was so grateful and so excited. I couldn't believe I had the PS5. And I'm like, wait, I thought we weren't getting it delivered here. And we did, and somehow it didn't get stolen. Thank you to the delivery people for not stealing my PS5. And I've enjoyed my PS5 so much. I use it to edit my videos, because in the PS4 era, that's when I started doing YouTube, which was 2018. And I started recording videos off my PS4, and I found this app called Share Factory, and it allowed me to edit my videos. And I use Share Factory on PS5 as well, and I've really enjoyed it. And it can be tricky at times, especially trying to import videos. I might get the occasional error or something like that, but for the most part, it does what it's supposed to, and it does what I need it to do, and it's simple to use for me now. I've got used to all the effects and everything, and yeah, Share Factory has been a huge part of my YouTube channel. It's just something I love to use to edit my videos, and I enjoy it so much. And yeah, also I got Gran Turismo Sport for PS4. It came out 2017, and it was a pretty bare bones game. It didn't have much to offer because it was, that was when Polyphony and Sony were all online only, and that's what we started with doing with that. But eventually they updated it, added kind of a more, I don't know, career mode, if you will, like they used to do back in the day. And, I really enjoyed, once Gran Turismo Sport came to the end of its life, I really enjoyed it. It was a great game, had a lot of cool cars. And what you're seeing here also, Gran Turismo 4, I also played a lot. This is the Spec 2 mod, but I have the original version as well. And it was a game I really enjoyed. I didn't care for Gran Turismo 3 as much because it was just a little bit too harder for me. Like, I don't mind a game being hard, but sometimes games are just too hard, and I kind of just give up, and I'm like, man, this is too difficult. And I just eventually, it was just too much for me. And of course I have it on the emulator, and I downloaded a save file and all that stuff. But this Spec 2 mod, by the way, is amazing. Credit to all those people who made this. It's such a great mod. It definitely enhances the experience, and I've really enjoyed it so far. I figured it was appropriate to showcase this in the video. But yeah, Gran Turismo series I'm very familiar with. It was only recently I got an Xbox and started playing the Forza games and got a PC and all that stuff. And but PlayStation was always my thing. It was the one I always relied on, and it was the one that I always had and I grew up with, and it was just such a familiar thing with me. My uncle had PlayStation as well. My buddy Dylan had PlayStation. He had a PS1, PS2. He eventually got a PS3, and then he eventually got a PS4 as well. And it was just so cool that I always enjoyed playing online. Excuse me. PS3 was also the first console I started playing online. I played GTA Online with my buddy Dylan a lot. Had a lot of great moments, and we had a lot of fun. And then we moved to PS4 for GTA Online and continued to have so many great moments. Is where I came up with the funny moments and fails videos that I made. And we had so many great times. We would kill each other all the time, and we'd cause so much mayhem, and that game was just such a great time. We would stay up so late playing online, just causing mayhem, doing missions, like I said, killing each other. And it was just amazing, and it was a lot of fun to spend with him. And I really enjoyed that. I don't have a lot of experience with online gaming. I tried NASCAR 15, I think, online as well. But online gaming has never really been my thing. I like to do single player. It's just something I prefer to do. But especially nowadays, you have to pay to play online. I think that's so stupid. You know, you shouldn't have to pay to play online like that. I just don't think it's fair, and it just makes it hard for people like me who want to try it. It just makes it seem harder to, want to play online. It's just very frustrating, and I hope they fix that for the future. But I know these companies gotta make their money, and I respect that. But not as much online experience. I'm more of a single player guy, and I've always enjoyed, especially games back in the day like PS2 and 3 that had long single player modes for racing and all that stuff. And like the old formula for Gran Turismo, you start out with a crappy car and you have to work your way up through all the races and everything. And those Gran Turismo games, especially the old ones, they were long. Like, you had to really buckle down into it. And Need for Speed kind of had an identity crisis there around the late 2000s, early 2010s, and I have pretty much all the Need for Speed games. Um, yeah, that's pretty much my story right there. That's pretty much it. It doesn't sound like much, but I wanted to share it. I've had a lot of great memories with PlayStation, and I cannot believe that it was their 30th anniversary. I was so pumped to see that. I just think that's so cool. It makes me feel very old. It's just 30 years is crazy. I'm going to be 30 next year, so it just makes me feel even older. And PlayStation has always been my home. I've always enjoyed it. I've had a PlayStation in my home pretty much my whole life, whether it was PS2 onwards, and I'm very grateful for every PlayStation I have. They all do what I want them to do, and they're all so much fun to play. And I've had so many great games over the years, and so many great memories with my dad and my sister and my mom, and just all the great time I had playing PlayStation. It's created a lot of great moments, and it's basically been a big part of my life. And to see it grow into 30 years strong, and I mean, the PS5 hasn't been as good with, they haven't made as many games and stuff, and but it's still, for me, the PS5 does what I need it to. It's a great console for YouTube editing for me, and it's just something that all my PlayStations have a purpose, and even if I don't play them as much, I always go back to them eventually. And it's the familiarity and the it's just the, how do I say it, the comfort of just knowing what I'm gonna get, knowing what I'm gonna play. Because playing on PC is a whole new thing. It's trying to install mods and all that stuff. It's very hard to do, and I really enjoy just the simplicity of playing on console, and the Xboxes are just so cool, but it just doesn't beat PlayStation. I have emulators on my Xbox Series S, and I brought it to my dad's recently, and we tried to play a 6 tricky like we used to do, but they were like, man, the Xbox controller is so much different, like, because they move the D-pad and the left analog stick, they switch them, and they're like, man, because they always make excuses when they lose, and it's like, oh, the Xbox controller sucks, it's not the same as the PS2, and I'm just like, well, here I am, just still dominating like always. And it felt really good. My dad and I get pretty competitive, and it was always fun to push him to his limits, even as a kid, to see him try so hard to beat me in SSX tricky. And sometimes he would get it, and sometimes he wouldn't, and it was just cool to this day to still watch him play a 6 tricky. Just brings back so many memories with my dad, and it was such a great time. And always a lot of memories I'll never forget, and I always really appreciated that. But anyway, that's enough of me rambling. I will let you enjoy the rest of the video. I have a little bit more gameplay. There is one more thing I want to mention about ATV Off-Road Fury that you're going to see. In the free roam map, you could blow yourself backwards if you go too far out of the map, and I always had fun doing that. And I'd always just had fun, wrecking and falling off my four-wheeler and everything. It was so much fun. And ATV Off-Road Fury games are a lot of fun. I have the third one, but I've never played it as much. It was always the first two. And so you'll see that at the end of this video, and I have a special little clip at the end where I did an amazing lap in one of my games, and I wanted to show that. It took me forever to get gold on that lap, and I finally did it. So I will let you all enjoy the rest of the video, and I just wanted to share my experience with PlayStation. It's been a great experience. Had some moments, had some rocky roads, but for the most part, it was a great experience, and I was super grateful for it. So thank you to Sony and thank you to PlayStation for all these amazing years, and here's to another 30 and many more. So hope you all enjoyed my story, and if you liked the video, if you'd like to, if you want to subscribe, that'd be great, and if not, hope you enjoyed anyways, and if you didn't like it, that's fine too. So I'll catch you all in the next time, and I will see you later, everybody. Thanks for watching. Hello everyone, I'm back. Just wanted to make one more quick little point. There's a couple of games I forgot to mention. I forgot to mention Maximo Ghosts of Glory, and I forgot to mention Medal of Honor Rising Sun. Those were two games that my dad used to really enjoy for the PS2. Just wanted to throw those in there as well, and always enjoyed playing those games. They were great. Maximo was alright. My dad more played that. Same with Medal of Honor. He was more of a fan of that game as well. So I forgot to mention those games in there and wanted to throw that in. So again, thanks for watching and thanks for tuning in, everybody. Peace out.